Stop everything you're doing. You need to listen to this.
Yesterday, the world changed. We will remember the 20th of December 2024 like we remember the very first heart transplant or the first atomic bomb exploding in the desert in the US. More likely the second one, I think. There will be stories told about this, movies made about this, or maybe interactive 3D experiences in the metaverse, whichever we have at the time. Okay, so what actually happened? OpenAI announced to the world O3, their latest model, and everyone is losing their shit. It beats expert humans at math. It beats expert humans at coding. It beats normal humans at being normal humans and figuring out small little puzzles on screen, which doesn't sound like a very impressive feat, but it is because these models tended to be very bad at this.
And not only that, it also beats expert scientists at sciencing. It answers extremely hard questions on biology, physics and chemistry better than domain experts, 88% to 74% for the best humans. But in the near term, the most consequential part is that O3 solves, out of the box, 72% of real-world GitHub tickets from Swebench verified, and is now the 175th best competitive programmer in the world.
We beat Kasparov at chess, we beat Lee Sedol at Go, and very soon we're going to beat the best programmer in the world at programming.
I'm looking at you, tourist. Basically solving most benchmarks that we put in place to sort of measure how good these models were and see when we were hitting AGI. Is this AGI? Is this not AGI? What is AGI? Finally, we're starting to ask this question, which I think is way overdue. Okay, so this is impressive, but we already had all kinds of evidence that AI is better than most humans at most things, like it's better at medical diagnosis, patient communication, it aces standardized tests with maybe just a little touch of cheating. It translates between 100 languages, and of course it generates images and video and music, sounds, 3D objects, textures. So how is this different? Why is everyone suddenly freaking out? Well, a lot of people thought that we had hit a wall, that progress had slowed down, that we had run out of the low-hanging fruit, that the announced intelligence explosion was not going to happen. And there were good reasons to think that. This year really felt like every single company was releasing the same model over and over. Amazon and Meta and Google and of course OpenAI, all the competitors and the open source, open weights models, all of them seemed to sort of plateau at the level of ability of GPT-4, but really no massive progress, no big step change like from GPT-3 to GPT-4, for example. And the big problems with progress were that we had run out of data. There is only so much data on the internet, and we had trained on the whole of the internet. Companies were now paying annotators to annotate more quality data. It got to the point where more data was no longer better data. You actually had to curate it. And even that didn't give you big wins anymore. And so the feeling shifted. We were no longer in FOMO and in panic. We relaxed for a moment. We thought, oh, maybe this is it now. Maybe now it's going to take 20 years to make better models. O3 changes everything. Back to the FOMO, back to the panic. OpenAI have demonstrated beyond any reasonable doubt that we can continue to scale the intelligence of these systems on the same path as we already were. No longer looking at the pre-training step where you take all of this data and just try to feed it into the model, and you're trying to get it to remember enough of it and connect enough of it in meaningful ways that it's useful and it makes it intelligent. Now we have found a different way to scale the models. And in doing so, they've demonstrated intelligence superior to that of most humans alive. Very importantly, intelligence that generalizes to new and unseen data in the tasks that we had set it. And what's the big deal about this? Sometimes when I ask GP something and it starts replying immediately, I am still shocked because I think, well, that was a pretty hard question. I would have had to stop for a moment and think about it before answering. And that is exactly the problem here. These models work by predicting the next token. You ask it something, it will just predict the first token, so word of the answer, and then the next word, and then the next word, and then the next word. And every one of these words is a choice. And once it has made this choice, it can't go back. it cannot unchoose it. It cannot delete, it cannot edit anything. So it's stuck with anything that it's said already, and it just has to keep going. If it said something silly, it just has to complete the silly paragraph. And that is the problem with stochastic parrots, as they have been called. O1 and O3 change this entirely. They allow the model to think sort of in parallel, to think different possible ways that it could answer, to think to itself, to debate with itself what the right answer would be. It can basically generate some output, look at it, think about it, and decide whether it's the right output or not, whether you should keep it, discard it, start again. And it turns out that this scales extremely well. Essentially, we have a way now of just letting the model think for longer, and the longer it thinks, the smarter it is. You can make it cleverer by just letting it think for longer, which is the big breakthrough here. And it is the one thing that proves that there is no end in sight for scaling these models. So we have reached a point where these models are smart enough that if you let them think for long enough, they'll figure out anything you throw at them. That is the gist of the O3 announcement. Soon, they'll learn from all of this thinking, and so they will think better and faster the next time. It already works, there's no doubt. It's just extremely expensive right now. It's not worth substituting humans with this artificial intelligence because it's more expensive than humans. But the scientific point has been proven, and now all that remains is engineering, which will be a lot of hard work by a lot of anonymous people behind the scenes, inventing some crazy pieces of technology to make this happen, to bring you intelligence on tap in the future. But the takeaways remain. We have now demonstrated that data shortage is no longer an issue, model size is no longer an issue, and generalization seems to not be as big an issue as we thought anymore. So the conversation now goes, is this AGI? Is this not AGI? What is AGI? Finally, we're starting to ask this question, which I think is way overdue. What if this intelligence becomes sentient and tries to take over the world? What if it turns us all into paper clips? No! Relax. The reality is way more boring. If an AI takeover was to happen, it will likely happen way after we have made every human being forever unemployable. And that is what we should be thinking about. Very soon, there will be widely available intelligence on tap that will be affordable enough, that will be smart enough, that it will be able to take many of the high-paying jobs of humans, particularly if those jobs are software engineering. And it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get cheaper and faster. So people are now wondering in public, should I even study software engineering? Is it not too late now to learn coding? I honestly don't have an answer to that. What I can tell you is that this is the time to become an entrepreneur, if there ever was one. And I have some videos about that, which you can check out right here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click likes, subscribes, wherever they are on this screen. And welcome to the future.